Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Sreelatha Meleth with a reintroduction of the podcast. This is your time to shine. A lot has happened since the last episode of This Is Your Time to Shine, not least of which is the political situation in the United States. But the reason for the interruption was because I lost my editors. They just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth, and I had already invested a lot in getting coached about becoming a coach, and so I decided to wait for several months. I think it's over a year before I started this again. I now already have 5 episodes recorded. But before I put those out, I wanted to have a conversation with you about this is your time to shine. And I will tell you a little bit about what has been happening for me since the podcast ended. As you all know, I have a PhD in applied statistics. I have been working as a biostatistician for over 2 decades, and sometime in February of last year, it became I was in a company that had a lot of mergers, and a lot of people were getting laid off. They were clearly wanting me to not continue to work there, and so I decided that I did not want to be in a situation where I was being disrespected and I was not being treated as the professional that I am. As a result of that, I decided to resign from this good high 6-figure job and focus fully on the coaching. I was already a certified EFT practitioner, the tapping coach. I was learning more about how to use speaking as a way to tell those who are looking for help or those who I am supposed to serve how I can help them. I have also, in the meantime, started a newsletter. So there are 2 things going on at the same time, but which may or may not be relevant to the podcast. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. This is not prepared. I will tell you also that I am flying to India today, late night. So in a couple of hours, I'll be heading to the airport. And I wanted to be sure that I did this before I left, and at least I had a recording that I could send out to my editors. So what do I want to talk to you about? This podcast is still about telling you that this is your time to shine. And what I did when I resigned from my high 6-figure job and kind of jumped, and I think there is a net. There's definitely a net that I didn't expect. There are several things that happened. I did have some savings. I did have some, access to finances without having to depend on my husband. One of the issues that have been an issue for me is the ability to talk openly without fear about money. That has a lot to do with how we grew up. I grew up. There was a sense that, asking for accounts, asking for how did you spend this money, wanting to know or being really open about money was not something that was done in the family. And there was also this underlying kind of, to want money is not good, right? Um, and and then there were experiences in our relationship which reinforced that. So one of the things that happens is that when you the, I would recommend all of you also subscribe to my newsletter. And one of the things that I've been doing in the newsletter is exploring how we tend to repeat patterns. So when you want to jump into this, when you want to step into this role that you know you're meant to do, and that feels, but is also a little bit scary, right? You are in a bit of survival mode. So you are in fight or flight mode. And when you're in fight or flight mode, the rest of your creativity does not work. And there is also this aspect of the cortex in the brain where everything that comes up from the body, the cortex has 6 layers. So the lower 2 layers is where the information from the somatic information from the body comes. And then the top 2 layers are where all of our information about what we have experienced, what an encounter or a conversation or uh, an interview, what that will do is pre-programmed in a certain sense because of the experiences that we have had before. And so I found myself falling in, and what happens is that the past experiences have a lot of power over us. And it tends to stifle the new experience. So even if you are thinking that, no, I want this to be a new way to communicate, in my case, to communicate about money with my husband, because there is all of this survival based experience above it in the as interpretations of what these kinds of conversations can do above it, those experiences come and suffocate this somatic information that even if that is coming up from the body. This is why something like EFT and really deep meditations where you become completely aware of your body, somatic practices are so important, because we are completely unaware of how our body is reacting. We are so trained to just be in our mind and let our mind spiral that we don't know how to access the body. And it is extremely important when you're getting into a new thing where you will be tried and where you will have experiences that you're not fully prepared for, and where you will get into survival mode, to learn how to become aware of your body. And so I'm going to be taking a few, I'm going to be sharing a few ideas with you about how you can do that. I have a couple of videos that'll help. And all of the women who are coming after this have exceptional stories. I have an exceptional story. And I don't know whether I have shared this before. So I grew up in India. I'm the youngest of 3 children. I have 2 older brothers. And my mom was the closest thing that I had, was my best friend. Around the age of 19, on December 31st, 1977, my mom got on a plane that was going to Dubai, and the plane crashed just 8 minutes after takeoff. And I lost my sense of safety in the world. I lost, not just that I lost the person who knew everything that I had ever thought and who I shared everything with, but I also lost my sense of safety. I wrote up a story about me that I am a person to whom bad things happen. And that when you create that story, what happens is that you become like a seeking tool that is looking for bad experiences, so that even if there are good things happening, there is that refrain going on underneath that says, I dare not trust this because bad things happen to me. So in the meantime, like, I got married, I had my first child, and we traveled around the world. There was a lot of stress. There were a lot of circumstances that were not easy to deal with. Um, but and each of those were reinforcing the story that good things don't happen to me, bad things happen to me, right? It took a long time for me to get over that. It still comes up sometimes. And so what I knew, while that story was there was also this other story that I remember from the time I was in third grade or fourth grade, wanting to be a person who everybody knew about. Wanting to be, I had, I created a thing, a club in primary school called the Helping Hand Club, where we would gather old clothes, we would gather old newspapers, because at that time in India, you could sell old newspapers and get money for it. So we would get people to bring old newspapers to school, and we would carry them off to these shops where they bought the newspapers. And the money that we got from that, we used to pay for the excursion fees for people who couldn't afford it. I did that when I was 8 or 9 years old. This is what I mean when I say that there is that person inside you, that story inside you, that voice inside you that is telling you you are meant to do bigger things. And that little one who started that Helping Hand Club knew that she had a calling that was bigger than just living, just getting married and having kids. And there was something more that I had to do. She did get stifled when life happened. When my mom died, when my husband had a period of unemployment, I became a mother. We were traveling, moving all over the world. Like I say, it was about, I've moved so far, I think, into about 40 different apartments or homes across 3 different continents. And I have 2 kids. I lost one baby in between. So there's been a lot of trauma, but there's also been this indomitable spirit that was always seeking to move forward. And for anybody who's listening to this, that's what I want you to pay attention to. That little voice inside you that is seeking to do something more. And just take the first step. The first step for you might just be listening to a podcast like this, right? Um, so so all of that happened, and I got a PhD in applied statistics. I became a successful faculty member who went from assistant professor to associate professor to tenured associate professor, who became the interim director of a huge biostatistics and bioinformatics unit at the UAB Comprehensive Cancer Center. But there was still this other part of me, right? So there were ways in which I would sabotage myself. So this is what we want to be aware of. We have this part. There is a part of me that is always seeking, moving forward, that has a unidirectional focus on doing more than I have done so far. But there's also this other part of me that is equally powerful that is pulling back, saying, hey, remember, you're the person whom bad things happen to. And so because that fear exists, because that tension exists, I tended to self-sabotage. And all of that played into how I am talking, how I'm interacting with um, in my relationship. And what I have learned to do, I have done some somatic work. I have done a lot of meditation. I've been fairly studious about doing a lot of Dr. Dispenza's meditations, in which he talks about breaking the habit of being yourself. And that is where I am. I am breaking the habit of being myself. And I have learned to hold and nurture that part of me that feels scared, that feels afraid and unworthy and ashamed, and to replace her with the goddess in me. Let me give you one other thing that I have been doing. One of the exercises that I learned when I was working with Margaret Lynch of tapping into wealth fame, was this practice of going back in time and figuring out what was the atmosphere like, what was the energy like when you were birthed, when I was birthed, right? What was the first emotion and energy that came up? And I realized that because I am a girl, because I'm a female child born into a fairly traditional culture, the first thoughts that come up for a mom would be, oh my God, I have to make sure that she remains chaste, that there are so many things that could happen. There are all of these struggles that women go through. My grandmother had a very difficult life. Um, and my mom too, although she was extremely happily married, she was there, there were a lot of financial struggles, a lot of, sibling stuff going on. Um, so, so instead of, oh my God, I've got this beautiful human being here, the first thoughts are, oh my God, I have to make sure that she is safe, right? That's what I got when I did that meditation. Interestingly enough, because I had lost a baby in between my son and my daughter, my first thoughts when my daughter was born and put on my belly was, one, oh my God, my girl, you're going to have to go through this labor thing. And second was this terror that I would lose her because I had lost another baby. So what I have been doing to release that energy is I chant a particular mantra in Sanskrit. The mantra is Om Aim Reem Kleem Chamundaye Viche. It invokes the goddess of wisdom, the goddess of wealth, the goddess of power, and acknowledges that all of them together are what Durga is, and I bow to her. And as I say that mantra, I imagine my soul talking to my mother and saying, no, 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 that is not the energy. Look at who I am. I am Durga. And I do the same thing, visualizing the time that my daughter was born, and she is telling me, no, I am Durga, right? So this energy that we kind of put on our children in certain circumstances can affect them. I do believe that energy affects. And so those are the ways. So that I find that extremely powerful every morning, to go into that space where I'm imagining my mom delivering me and feeling that sense, holding her breath, and me telling her, no, you got this wrong. I am a powerful goddess. That's who I am, and that's who I'm going to be. And I can feel my body change. I can feel my posture change. I can imagine my daughter's posture changing as I do this work. So those are all the kinds of things that can help you when you begin to become aware of all of the ways in which all of the pulls and pushes and pulls inside us that are creating this uh, tension and this keeping us stuck. And if you would like to know more about that, I will, you can book a call with me, a 30-minute free call, and we can figure out where is it that you are struggling, what is it that you need to work on. I'm extremely, extremely good at what I do and have got tons of people unstuck from where they are. So this is your introduction, and maybe I've never spoken as openly as I have about me. And I just want to say, as a result of this work, I am being able to communicate about money, not as openly as I would like to, but I'm getting there. The fear is leaving. So I wanted to say that. I want you to reach out to me, and let's have a conversation about where you are. If you have this little voice inside you that says, this is my time to shine, I think this is my time to shine, but I have no idea how to go about it, book a call. Okay. God bless you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I will be back with some of the interviews pretty soon. Thank you. God bless.